Hi everybody, and welcome back to another OR tutorial. In this video, I'll be continuing on with vectors. I'll be adding those vectors to a data frame, and I'll be changing the data types of the data frame, which can be quite important when you're working with big data sets and stuff, or any data sets. It's quite important when you're working with stuff like that. So I'll be teaching you how to do that too. So this might look quite daunting to you if you're still new to all this. But also, if you're just here looking for a solution to one of the problems that you're having, you might have some errors changing data types and stuff. Hopefully this video can help you out too. So here I'm going to be working with another sports example. So I have a vector of names, a vector of sports, a vector of ages, and a vector of genders. So what I want to do is I want to add them to a data frame, or create a data frame from them. So if I run here, I have my variable name and my values Bill, Bob and Jen. And if I run sports, football, rugby, softball, age 20, 23, 21, and gender, male, male, female. So what I want to do here is I want to add those to a data frame so they can be pretty much added together. So I'm going to call that data frame player, and when I run this, you can see now that it's created a data frame. So we have name, sports, age and gender. So you might be able to spot it already. We have age as a number as a data type for age, and that's because we specified that as a number here. We don't have it in quotes. But we have name as a factor, sports as a factor, and gender as a factor. So that can be, we need to change that because factor pretty much represents a category. So we don't have a category for name or category for sports, but we do for gender, so that's fine. But we need to change name, sports, but we'll change all of them for the sake of the tutorial. So in here, I want to say inside the data frame player, I want to access name, so the dollar sign pretty much accessing a column. So inside player, I want to access name, and I want to change it to a character data type. So when I run this, that'll change to a character. I'll do the same for sport. And for the sake of this, I'm being picky, but I want to change number to an integer because you can use number for 20.15 or something, whereas it can use integer for just one number. So I'm going to change it to integer, and you can see now that it's changed. And also this won't change anything, but I'm going to run it anyway. So factor, I'm going to change to factor. So it shouldn't change. It doesn't change. So what I've done there is I've taken 4 vectors, name, sport, age, and gender, and I've converted that into a data frame called player, and I've cleaned up the data values from factors to characters to integers. And now I want you to see if you can do it yourself. So pause the video. Create 4 new vectors of the same variable, so call it name, sport, age and gender. I want you to clean up the data types, and then because we'll be using that later on, so pause the video and see how far you can get. So I'm going to be lazy here, and I'm going to take all these down. So I'll copy that, take it down here. So let's have Amy and James. Let's say golf, rugby is fine, and football. 22, 25, and 20. And let's change the genders. So female, female, and male. So I've created 4 new vectors of name, sport, age and gender. So when I run these, this is actually going to change the values of these variables, but we already have those values up here in player, so it shouldn't make a difference. So I've run that. I'll run sport and age and gender. So you can see they're all changed now, and we have new values for age, gender, name and sport. So I want to create those. I want to take all those and I want to add it to a data frame. So I'm going to call that player 2 data.frame. I want add name, sport, age, and gender. Let's run that, and that'll be almost identical apart from the data types like players. So we have name, sport, age, and gender in both, and we've already cleaned player, but you can see we have factor, factor, number, factor. So we'll have to change that. So let me say player 2, because we're accessing player 2, we're accessing the column name, and I want to change that to as character, and then player 2 again, and we're accessing name. Don't know why I have 2. There we go. So we'll run that, and you see we've changed factor to character, so we have Amy and James. So again, I'm just inside player 2, I'm using the $sign, so access the column name and change it to character and reassign that to player 2 name. So player 2, access the column sport as dot character, player 2 sport, and let's change the character as well. So player 2, I'm accessing age, and I'm assigning, nope, not character, integer, player 2. So I'm assigning a data type of age, of integer to age, and I'm reassigning that to age. And then for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to change, well, I'm going to run the code of gender. I won't change it, but as factor, because it's already a factor, I won't change it. Gender. Okay, so you can see now the two data frames are almost identical. We have character, 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 integer, factor, and name to name, name, sport, age, gender. Okay, so what that means, or what I want to do now, is I want to create one whole data frame containing both of those data frames. So I want to add player and player 2 into one data frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it all players, and what I'm going to use is Rbind, so that requires all the columns to be the same, or for the data frames to be identical. So I'm going to say player 2, and when I run this will create an all players data frame, and I'll have player 2 and player in one. So I've run that, and as you can see, that's added now all players containing everything that we've already cleaned and run. So we have all our names, all our sports, all our ages, and all our genders. So let me just see if, or when you're working with data frames or data sets, it's important that you can interpret knowledge, or you can draw some knowledge from the data sets or your analyzation, and a good way of doing that is using visualizations. So I'm going to use a bar plot, a simple bar plot here. I'm going to say table. So table is going to count up the amount. So if you're not using an integer or a number, table is going to count up what you're specifying. So here I'm going to say all players, and I want to access sport. So table is going to count up everything that's inside sport, and it's going to represent that in a bar plot. So when I run this, you can see that we have 2 values for football, 1 value for golf, 2 values for rugby, and 1 value for softball. So that was just an introduction to how to clean data sets, how to clean the data types, working more with vectors, creating data frames, binding them together, which we'll cover more in greater detail, as well as the visualizations. We'll cover that more too. So I hope this video was useful to you. Please stay tuned for more tutorials.